is no. That is correct. Slabs or pavers in your backyard are up to the owner's discretion. However, any work being done in the front yard, you'll need to contact your HOA.
I'll take permits for 600.
My pool needs to be drained. Do I need a permit for that? Yes. I mean, what is yes?
What is no?
That is correct. Pro tip, if you're looking to drain the water in your pool, you'll find 2 black water conduits in the front of your home. One of them leads directly to sewage. Plug it in and you're ready to begin draining. However, you'll need to contact Global Water first, as the pool water needs to be of a specific pH level before you can begin the draining. So that's all the time we have for today. Be sure to tune in next time to Permit or Not, and until then, feel free to visit www.maricopa-az.gov for all of your questions regarding city events, permits, and more. Or leave us a comment below and we'll be sure to get back to you. A lot of people have been wondering just what's in store for this big plot of land. And after the overpass opened, it's become a popular topic of discussion for many investors. Well, we're happy to share that preliminary designs have been submitted for the new Maricopa Station and is slated for mixed-use development featuring space for a variety of businesses and homes.
Right now, Maricopa businesses miss out on millions of dollars in retail sales as customers shop outside the city. And this development is just another important piece of the puzzle to keep those dollars here, benefiting our businesses.
This is the first set of potential developments that we hope to see more to come within this area, because this is just a small portion of the totality of about 40 acres, where this is only 27 acres that's being proposed. There's still 20 acres south of Honeycutt Avenue that hasn't been spoken for. But this is great news for the city to see some interest now as we start to see more development south of the overpass area. The shopping center is proposed for about 180 to 200,000 square feet of retail in itself. But keep in mind that this is still just a pre-application. There's nothing set in stone at this time. These just has potential developers that's interested in the land in response to the city's recent rezoning of the land from what it was before, Pinell County zoning, industrial and some commercial, to now a shopping center type zoning that gives it more flexibility and opportunities for this type of development pattern in itself.
Another milestone moment for the new Maricopa Police Headquarters. Over the weekend, crews poured the foundation for the future home of our men and women in blue. This administration building and emergency communication center will accommodate the force that will continue to set the bar on safety for Maricopa's rapidly growing population. Here's another sign of our
Thank you. I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's City Council meeting, regular City Council of May 16, 2023. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll have the invocation. I'd like to invite Pastor Rusty Akers from Community Hope to give the invocation, after which we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance given to us by Councilmember Wade. Please rise if you're able.
Will you pray with me? Father God, we're just so grateful that we can be here tonight, God. We're grateful for the freedoms we have in this country. God, I just pray a special prayer tonight for our young men and women that are preparing to graduate from our local schools, God, that you would just bring safety to our community as we end this school year, Father. I pray for our leaders as they make decisions as we go forward. We just thank you for your grace that you give us through your Son, Jesus. In his name, amen.
Amen.
Please. One nation, under God.
Thank you, Pastor Rusty, and thank you, Councilmember Wade. That'll take us to roll call.
Councilmember Gettle,
Present.
Councilmember Learman, Councilmember Manfredi, Councilmember Marsh,
Here.
Councilmember Wade,
Here.
Vice Mayor Vitiello, Mayor Smith.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Vanessa. That'll take us to proclamations, of which we have none tonight, which will then take us to the report from the mayor. At this time, I'd like it to open it up for council member comments. Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
As usual, I've had a busy couple weeks. On May 5th, I attended a Central Arizona project briefing with an update on the water situation in the lakes, Powell and Meade. And the good news is, as we all have learned, we're getting more water down from the Rockies than we expected. And the water levels in the lakes is going up. And so we can breathe easy this year, but don't breathe easy for next year. On May 9th, I attended a board meeting of the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority. And there I learned that WIFA, a state agency, has been actively researching the Missouri River pipeline as a possible source of water going forward. WIFA also has grant money available for water conservation projects, like the turf reduction project being researched by the city in cahoots with Global Water. They have a $3 million program max grant and a $250,000 project max grant. A program could be something like reducing the overall turf in the city of Maricopa, and a project could be reducing a single HOA's turf. And the benefit to an HOA is that it can cost $10,000 an acre to water turf for a year, and that comes out of your HOA dues, your HOA assessment. So you can get rid of non-productive turf that isn't being used as a playground for kids or something, and turn it into desert landscaping. And the city is working on putting together a demonstration plot of xeriscaped land to show how pretty desert landscaping can be in Arizona, as opposed to the turf that was put in by developers in order to sell desert land to people from Wisconsin. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Marsh. Councilmember Wade, do you have anything? I don't have anything. Okay, Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A week ago yesterday, Councilmember Henry Wade and Vice Mayor Vitiello and myself, we had the pleasure and the opportunity to attend the awards ceremony for our graduating class at Maricopa High School. And it was an impressive evening to be able to recognize these young people, our leaders of the future, as they excelled in academics and athletics. What was striking to me was the number of enlistees that were heading off to basic training here in the next few weeks, and the amount of scholarships that they pulled in. If I remember the number correctly, and maybe you can correct me if we need to, but it's $7.8 million in scholarships our senior class at Maricopa High pulled in. A tremendous testament to their tenacity, their academic willingness to excel, and the future looks bright. So I just wanted to give my thanks to them, and especially to their teachers and their families and all the support that they've given them for these last 4 years. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. And Vice Mayor Vitiello.
Yeah, that was quite a treat to see, 60, 70 kids get not one, but two, but some of them got close to 10 scholarships. So when people say our schools aren't up to par, I beg to differ, that these kids were getting scholarships from all over the country, and not just, D2 schools. These were all big schools, big dollars, and I got to tell you something. I was super proud to stand up there and shake their hands. I mean, it was pretty fun. At one point, it was a little bit emotional in the aspect of some of the kids that I know are going to be going away to college, and we won't see them here in our city for quite a while, but it was a blessing, and I hope every one of them take advantage of every one of those scholarships, and God bless them, and I'm sure their parents are very happy about those scholarships. Also, last week, Mayor asked me to sit in with Senator Sinema for a Zoom meeting. It was talking about housing, and how cities can get involved for grants and stuff like that, and people who need help with housing. So it was enjoyable. I forwarded that off to all the council members and the mayor. Ricky, I hope I sent it to you too. If you didn't get it, I'll get it to you. But anyway, the bottom line is that, you know, they're working hard there to help our cities to get funding for housing and help people out with housing. So it was a good presentation. I enjoyed it. It was about an hour and a half. And I look forward to more of those in the future. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Regarding the last few weeks and anything that I have done, the most important, obviously, as we all know, is transportation. 347 definitely attended the April State Transportation Board meeting where I talked about the road safety analysis. And I think in the last City Council, I talked a little bit about wanting to bring that information to the public. So we're looking at having a town hall, which will be some really good information. Then this Friday is our May State Transportation Board meeting, and I plan on going, and I just talked with a few people from the audience who plan on attending as well. And as always, the public is welcome. It's local. Ron, is it in Chandler Friday? Okay, and if you're interested, let me know and I'll let you know exactly where it's located, but it's close by, so that's good, because if you're really interested and want to participate and have an impact on communicating with the Arizona State Transportation Board, this is the greatest opportunity to do that. And just by mentioning and talking to them and all the meetings we've had with ADOT, it's really keeping the city of Maricopa and the needs of 347 right in front of them. And so I'm excited for what's to come in the years. And that includes two bills that looks like they're going to be very successful. One for $18 million that will help us eliminate the traffic signals at Casablanca Road and the Cement Plant Road. It looks like we're going to get that $18 million. And so that'll be exciting to move into that project. And then $10 million for 238, State Route 238, and improvements needed there. So in regards to transportation, a successful year at the state legislation in regards to those important projects for us at the city of Maricopa. And we thank Representative Martinez and Senator Shope for their leadership on those two bills. Very important. And that's all that I have at this time. Any second chances? Yes. Yes. Is that what date is that? This Thursday. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Apologize for not getting this in earlier, but we have a West Pinal County Transit Plan meeting, which is scheduled here locally also. It'll be Thursday evening here at our public library at 6 o'clock. And our county officials will be putting forth their plan, talking a little bit about the improvements that they're looking forward to bringing into our community and to our county. So public input is very important in this stage of that, and we'd like to encourage all to attend if you have interest in developing the plan that will shape a little bit of our future here in Maricopa. Thank you, Mayor.
All conversations regarding transportation are really critical to the city of Maricopa. So wherever you can jump in and help, it's very, very valuable. And we have some great residents that do jump in and help, and so I appreciate them very much. So that's your report from the mayor and council. That turns us over to the city manager.
Mayor and council, like to defer my time and give it to Chief Goodman, please.
Very good. Chief Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, esteemed members of the City Council, it gives me great pleasure to be here with you this evening to present our 2022 Police Department Overview, which is intended to help paint a picture of the role the Police Department has in unlocking the full potential of the City of Maricopa to create a thriving and durable community. Additionally, the PD plays a key role in advancing the priorities or thrusts of the Council as identified in our Futures Planning meeting we had just a few months back. Next slide, please. Do I have the clicker? Is it behind me? I'm sorry. Green button, the big green button. Okay, I need to go back one. There we go. So I thought it'd be interesting for the council and for members of the public who are present to see our top 20 calls for service. And as you see, our officers are very active out in the field. Our number one call for service is self-initiated activity by our police officers. So when a call comes in, how a call for service is initiated is a community member either calls the police department, calls our dispatch center to initiate a call for service, or our police officers observe something and they want to check it out. They want to check out suspicious activity, or they want to make a traffic stop, or they want to chat with someone on the sidewalk, whatever it may be. They talk on the radio, and that generates a call for service. But what's really interesting is the number 2 and the number 3 of the top 20 calls for service. It really shows that our community is engaged in public safety with the police department. You'll see number 2 is listed as suspicious. Those can be suspicious vehicles, suspicious people, anything that our community members see that they think is a little out of place, they pick up the telephone and call the police department. And so this really helps us to be guardians of our community and to keep our community safe. The third call for service is welfare check. Again, shows a great deal of consideration for others, and that members of the public are calling for us to check on their neighbors or perhaps people they see who they think may be in need out in our community. So, how are calls for service received? Well, 63% of our calls for service come from community members, and 37% are generated by our officers. So, how many calls for service do we get per year? Well, last year our dispatch center received around 36,500 calls for service into the dispatch center. That is a lot. Of those calls, around 4,300 were transferred to fire because they were medical calls, which leaves us with a little over 32,000 calls for service where people called in and they spoke with our dispatchers. That's a lot and really shows the dedication of our dispatchers in handling those calls and making sure they're handled efficiently. Not every call for service ends up with a police report. Oftentimes we'll go to a call, it'll be minor in nature, and we'll be able to resolve it rather quickly and then move on to the next. So around 17% of the 32,000 calls for service that we received to the city of Maricopa in 2022 translated into an actual written police report. That's around 5,500 reports, quite a few. So this slide differs from the top 20 slide in that it shows the top 10 calls for service that are both on the left, officer initiated, and on the right, citizen initiated. Again, not a huge difference. Our officers are very proactive. They're getting out of their police cars and making contact with people 1,788 times in 2022. And then on the right, you'll see, again, citizen-initiated activity is very high for welfare checks, suspicious people they may see or suspicious vehicles. You'll notice the burglary alarm call volume is rather high. And so our officers do respond to burglary alarms. We are taking some proactive steps, using some technology to try to reduce those burglary alarms and essentially use that system to identify people who have alarms that are malfunctioning. Then we're able to reach out to those people and have them fix their alarms so that we don't have to go anymore.
Chief Goodman, what is attempt locate?
Attempt to locate is we're attempting to locate either a person, maybe a missing person, a missing juvenile, or maybe attempting to locate a vehicle. So of the 32,000 calls that came into our comm center last year, we have to prioritize each and every one of those calls to give it a priority level so we're able to go to the most important calls first. And I think you'll be very pleased to see we have 5 different priorities for calls. H is a high priority call, meaning we have to get there right now. There's an immediate threat to life. Priority 1 is an in-progress crime or an accident that just occurred with injuries, or perhaps something happened in one of the roadways where we need to get there quickly to avoid an accident or something of that nature. Priority 2s are smaller grade in-progress calls. Priority 3, that's where the lion's share of our work is done. 73% of our calls for service are priority 3 calls, and those generally involve helping one of our community members, perhaps serving an order of protection, or going to check on something, or just performing a service for one of our community members. And that's a good thing, because it represents opportunities where we can really interact with people and build those relationships and provide a really high level of service to our community members. We do have a few specialty units here at the police department, and again, I'd like to extend my thanks to the city manager for allowing the police department to expand its traffic unit. The traffic unit is really paying dividends. Traffic is directly related to one of our city council thrusts of transportation. We just spoke about it a little bit earlier in the meeting. 347 is obviously the point of focus for our traffic problems, our traffic issues in town, and we focus a lot of attention in that area. And I'll demonstrate that with a slide a little bit later. But the traffic unit's having a major impact, and we're able to be agile, to use data month to month to see where our accidents are, and then hopefully deploy our folks where they're needed. I'd like just to touch very quickly on our SRO program. You'll see there that in 2022, the unit was made up of 4 officers. We were billeted for 5 officers, and in light of security at schools, which I take very, very seriously, I filled that 5th spot. So we will have our SRO unit fully staffed come around June or July of this year. I was able to repurpose an officer from our patrol division and put her over into our SRO. So I think that will do very well, not only for our interaction with our youth, but also security at our schools. Just to give you an idea about how busy our specialty units are. A daily report is essentially an activity tracker. It doesn't represent police reports, because as I mentioned earlier, we wrote about 5,500 police reports last year, and those 3 numbers, when you add them up, don't come close to 5,500 if my public school math serves me well. So the term daily report essentially is a way to track our officers' activity from day to day, month to month, and throughout the year. So you'll see that our SROs are very busy, our animal control folks are busy, and I'm pleased to report that our traffic unit is very busy as well. So the way that crimes are classified depends upon a system called NIBRS. That's the National Incident-Based Reporting System. NIBRS is a very standardized way of what you may remember as the old UCR reports. We really can't compare UCR data versus NIBRS data because it's just so different. NIBRS breaks down crimes in 2 groups, Group A and Group B. And Group A, of course, are the more serious crimes, such as robberies, arsons, burglaries, gambling, drug offenses, things of that nature. Group B include DUI, trespassing, disorderly conduct, nonviolent offenses, and some theft offenses. So you'll see that we have a very large piece of the pie that are Group B. And then our Group A is 15%. A lot of those are assaults. The good news is our assaults are a little down. They fluctuate month to month. A very high percentage of those assaults are unfortunately domestic violence incidents. And so we're always looking for creative ways to try to reach out to our community and build those relationships through some of our nonprofits to get behind the idea of preventing domestic violence in the home through outreach and providing our community members with good resources to address those types of issues. Arrests, I'll talk a little bit about arrest numbers. So in 2022, we made 2,129 arrests. We averaged about 177 a month. 482 of those arrests were for felonies, and a little over 1,600 were for misdemeanors. So we averaged about 40 felony arrests a month and about 137 misdemeanors a month. Some of those are side outs, other people, they get booked, other people get sent to Pinal County Jail. It just depends upon the totality of the circumstances. I can tell you that so far in 2023 that our arrest statistics are up. It's not a reflection of an increase in crime. It's a reflection of a departmental philosophy of being guardians of our community and being proactive and getting in front of crime problems while they're still small before they become big. And so I really encourage our officers to be proactive, get out in the community, see what's going on, make arrests when appropriate. We like prevention, intervention, and enforcement being last, but when appropriate, enforcement. We want to do so in a way that is constitutional and fair, and we practice the spirit of the law. So our officers are doing that on a daily basis, and I can see that month to month. Let's touch for a minute on traffic hotspots. Again, it's back to our transportation and the importance of making transportation a priority as identified by the City Council here in Maricopa. So you'll see two items listed for each intersection. The first item is the primary collision factor, or the causal collision factor, at that particular intersection. The second one is the top-sided offense in or around that particular intersection. So they don't always match. So sometimes when we go to investigate our collisions, we'll see that the primary collision factor is different than whatever's being cited for that particular intersection on a regular basis. So that's the reason for the difference there when you look at those 6 different intersections. There's an example of one of our heat maps that we can generate to see what's going on as far as collision activity is concerned. Not surprisingly, the red dots on the left-hand side of the map are right along 347, and some of the other ones as you work farther east are larger intersections. Some of those intersections are getting signals as the city develops, and I would expect some of those collision numbers to come down as those signals are put into place. 347 is going to remain a focus moving forward. The PD efforts support the council's efforts towards improving traffic on 347, so we constantly want to work that to make sure that we have good transportation throughout the city. Cites, we write a lot of speeding tickets. Speed is our number one driving behavior that causes the most crashes. It also causes the most injuries. So we're going to look at speeding as one of our priorities here for traffic enforcement. In total, we wrote about 3,600 cites last year, which is quite a few. And then finally, let's talk about roadway improvements, because traffic doesn't only have to do with enforcement. It also has to do with engineering. And so we'll meet on a regular basis with our traffic engineering personnel to try to come up with solutions to try to make traffic safer so we don't have to do enforcement at these particular locations. So the top photos are the ones, it's a before, and the bottom ones are an after. So you'll see at 238 and Smith Inc., or 347, the gore point was causing drivers to come over and then collide with one another. So the bollards keep people from doing that particular turning maneuver. And then at the same intersection, we added a lane, which is very, very helpful in terms of getting traffic flowing and not stopping unnecessarily. Does that look familiar to anybody, the top one? It's prior to the overpass going in. Pretty interesting photo. I post-date the overpass, so I don't remember. I have no recollection, of course, of how it looked. So the photo is rather telling. And I think pretty interesting. And maybe someone in this room, maybe in that little red car, we're not sure. So obviously the overpass was constructed. And you'll see the collision number. When you look at those collision numbers on the left, that bar graph, I don't count 2020 because it's an outlier. Most people were at home. So let's look at 21 and then compare it to 22, and you'll see a reduction. And usually we see an increase in traffic collisions like when we first change a configuration or we change a signal pattern, but then the natural progression should be downwards. And lastly, looking to the future. I always like to look to the future. We're going to continue our traffic unit expansion to the degree I can to continue to have safety throughout the city in reference to traffic. Continue to use data to drive enforcement locations. Also get input from the public. I get a lot of input from the public in reference to school zones. and we do a lot of enforcement in our school zones. Look at getting grants from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. We just applied for a new grant, which I have my fingers crossed that we're going to get, and we'll be able to do some additional enforcement that will be paid for by the state of Arizona. And then finally, I referenced work with MUSD and our charter schools to try to come up with effective traffic plans that can be frustrating during the morning and afternoon hours. So thanks for your time. Hopefully the overview has been informative and demonstrates the many ways the PD helps out, not only to ensure public safety, but also touch on the council priorities with the thrust of transportation and quality of life and becoming a destination city. I'm available for questions.
Council, do you have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Chief Goodman, thank you for your report. Amazing numbers and great work out there. I was just curious if you had any data on, you mentioned the annual number of arrests. Were those representative of unique individuals being arrested, or are there repeat offenders? Is there a way to break out those numbers so we can see where those come from?
It represents both, and I will be able to provide you with those numbers. I just need to have my analysts crunch them for you.
No, very good. I appreciate that.
Councilmember Gettle. Anyone else? Vice Mayor?
Chief, you know how I feel about public safety, so I want to give you the opportunity to brag about where our city stands in the 91 cities and towns in this state of Arizona. And then I'd like you to brag about the country where we stand. So, please.
Well, we're definitely in the top 10. Depending on which survey you look at and depending on what numbers they use, which I'm not quite sure where folks get their information when they do these surveys, in my opinion, there should be a standardized way of pulling the numbers somehow, but there just isn't. So depending on what search engine you use, we could be up to number 7. So, and that's excellent. You know, it's very telling about having a rating like that of not only our police department, but also I give a lot of credit to the people that are sitting in front of me, but also sitting behind me. It takes a community to really engage in community policing. It takes a two-way street. It's a relationship. It's not just a responsibility of the police department. It's everyone's responsibility to ensure that we have a good relationship, that people are picking up the phone and calling the police. I don't ever want anyone to say, I'm sorry for calling, but I want to report this. Don't say you're sorry. That's what we're here for. The police department exists to serve the community.
Thank you. So, Chief, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to mention, because I liked the slide that you presented at each of the intersections that caused the most either tickets or accidents, and it aligns well with what ADOT had for the road safety analysis on the 347 outside of the city limits. And I don't want to burst too much of the bubble that they'll share at the town hall, but interestingly enough, in their road safety analysis, what they found is, yes, we do need a wider road. We need an additional lane. Additional 2 lanes on each side would be great, but we're just talking 3 at this side. Yes, we do need that. Yes, the accidents happen at the intersections, but what they found in their analysis is that the majority of accidents happen because of driving behavior. Driving too fast, driving too close, being too reckless with the way that you're driving. That is the reason that the majority of accidents happen. It has nothing to do with the fact that we need the 3rd lane. It might be related to frustration because we need the 3rd lane, but if everyone behaved, we'd have a much even more safer environment driving our road on 347. So I thought that was interesting that it perfectly aligned with what you found when you did your analysis at the intersections within the city. It's the same outside of the city as well. They were shocked when they did their analysis on 347 that they periodically saw people driving on the shoulders at 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour. In shock, like where else do you see that? So we have to behave when we're driving.
Yes, please behave.
It's very important. But thank you for the presentation. I thought it was great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that'll take us to the call to the public. At this time, I do have 2 speaker cards, and if you haven't turned in a speaker card, but you would like to speak, you're welcome to do so after I call up the 2 that have turned in their speaker cards. Let me read to you first the procedure to follow if you address the council or a council request that you express your ideas in 3 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The mayor will limit discussion whenever they deem such an action appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the council may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the council, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or take legal action on any matters during an open call to the public unless the matters have properly been noticed for discussion and legal action. So the first speaker card I have is Elizabeth Howell.
Mayor, Council, my name is Elizabeth Howell, and I want to talk today about the speed limit on the Casa Grande Highway. I know it goes through the Gila River Reservation, but the other roads that go through the reservation are posted at 55 miles an hour, and they have the Casablanca Road and Nelson Road are all posted at 55, and yet the Casa Grande Highway, which probably there's twice as much traffic on that as the other 2 put together, the speed limit's only 50. I don't know if you can do anything about it. I know it's part of the 238 highway, and I don't know if you're thinking about that section of it as opposed to the west side section that goes to Mobile. But I just wanted to call your attention to that. For those of us that do drive to Casa Grande for services, it would be really helpful. I set my my speed control at 50, and I have like 10 cars behind me that invariably pass, and sometimes they do at a time which is not really nice. So anyway, I just wanted to call that to your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I appreciate that information. That actually sparks something on the road safety analysis. I'm so excited for you guys to hear that when they come to town. They're actually looking at making the speed on 347 north of the city continuously the same speed, not dropping down to the 50 or 55 when you're at those intersections. And they feel like that'll move traffic better as well. Okay, second speaker card is Barry McCain.
Good evening, Mayor Smith, City Councilman, and staff and friends. My name is Barry McCain from the City of Maricopa, 36609 West Montserrat Street. First of all, I'd like to say, I've been at the Capitol the whole time. I daily know exactly what's going on at the Capitol. Been doing this since 2006. And one thing I've found out, since everybody wants to talk about people, there's just too many good people in this world to worry about the knuckleheads. I mean, whether it be government or non-government, this country is great because of the people. I want to make that clear. That's what makes this world go. But say action is the antidote for despair. I've said this over and over again, and that's what keeps us going because of that. But since I've been at the Capitol, I've noticed some things, and I'd like to show you. Like I said, people keep me going. The good people every day I see, every day. So, but to talk about what Councilman Gallo and Vitalia talks about, I hope you notice that the Navy man, he's anti-submarine warfare. That's our elites. Not just Navy SEALs, but that's our elite because they can do everything. And I was proud to be able to meet that man. And that was my highlight of that night. So, but what I noticed out at the Capitol is that the last Arizona Attorney General did run his office on half the budget of the present Attorney General who says she can't afford operating costs and who disagrees with the present governor. The present governor blames the president of these United States that he has no plan of action for immigration. They're all Democrats. I thought that was kind of strange. The Democrats, the legislators say they're being bullied, but they don't have legislation to present as an alternative. And again, Democratic legislators said that legislators should be civil, yet they accuse Republicans of bullying them without joining in a spirited discord on fair legislation for Arizona voters. We must have two opposing options before we can legislate amicable legislation. Yet too many Democratic legislators and leadership seem to not understand what democratic values and ideas is. The Democratic leadership uses cronyism, disinformation, nepotism, sensationalism since I was a delegate at the 2012 Democratic National Convention. Well, what I'm just talking about is called factionalism. I want to say that first again, factionalism. This is a political tactic that capitalizes on divisions that are exacerbated by race, class, and so forth. This tactic is very bad for our country and elections. As a Navy man, I was on the Kitty Hawk when he had a race riot. I've seen the worst of the worst with Vietnam on and things declared and undeclared. But the greatest thing I've always found that makes me proudest in this country is the people that I meet. It just makes me get up in the morning when I don't want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCain. That's all the speaker cards I have. Would anyone like to approach the podium? Please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. I would like to thank Councilman Gettle and Vice Mayor Vitello again for coming to the awards ceremony at the high school, and Councilwoman Learman. As you know, we are graduating from Maricopa High School on the 25th with many honors and many accomplishments and many, many scholarships. I think actually the number you threw out there was lowballing it because quite a few of our students didn't really put in like the numbers when they asked for the email blast. So as impressive as that number was, it might actually not be the whole thing, which is incredible. I would also like to say that I moved to Maricopa High School after freshman year. I went to Desert Vista up in Tempe my freshman year, and originally I was a little apprehensive moving. I had to because of COVID and other family issues, and I saw it as a missed opportunity that I didn't get to go to Desert Vista. But being in Maricopa High School and being closer connected to this city over the last 3 years has shown me that Maricopa is growing, it's changing, it's all of it for the better. And I'm very happy to be a part of this city, and I'm very happy that I got to go to Maricopa High School, and I'm very happy that I get to graduate on the 25th and head to Northern Arizona University on scholarship. And I'd just like to thank you guys again.
Very much. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is one impressive example of what we have at Maricopa High School. He wants to be an aerospace engineer. He went through the Maricopa Citizen Leadership Academy class and graduated. He volunteers at the Rocket Challenge, just an impressive individual, and we have lots of students like that at the City of Maricopa, so I really appreciate that. Thank you for speaking out. Yes, ma'am, please come forward. Please state your name.
Thanks, that starts me. My name is Joanna Vanderpool. To the mayor, council members, city manager, and staff. I am here to invite you to Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a celebration that is going to happen June 17th at the Maricopa Library Cultural Center. It is the third annual Juneteenth celebration that we're having. Why do we do Juneteenth? Juneteenth is part of a national...
We need you to speak into the microphone.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Thank you
okay.
very much.
Let me, may I move this over to here?
We
Or-
really,
But I still want to move it over here. Thank you. I will present to the council. Juneteenth. Why do we have Juneteenth? Why is it in Maricopa? Maricopa has a tapestry of different cultures. Juneteenth allows us to provide an uplifted cultural view of the African American culture. We celebrate Cinco de Mayo and other holidays here. This is a holiday that our children will learn about in school. Why is it a national holiday? It is part of the Emancipation Proclamation for our government, and it is part of the 13th Amendment for our holiday, for our country. Juneteenth is something that we celebrate. We are Americans. We want all of America to recognize what we celebrate, how we enjoy being Americans, and what we do to contribute to America. We are going to demonstrate some of those skilled individuals at this event by offering them an opportunity to say what they do in the city of Maricopa to build Maricopa. Come. It's going to be fun. It's from 10 to 1 at our library. I am accepting donations, and it will be a wonderful event. Questions?
we're not able to ask questions.
Oh.
Well, I can ask a quick question.
Yes.
Can you repeat the date and time again?
The date is June 17th from 10 to 1 o'clock.
At the library, right?
At the library. You will hear music. Thanks. You will hear music and get information. If you don't know the holiday, come find out about it. I welcome you. You're all invited.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Would anyone else like to approach the podium?
Thank you. I accept donations.
All right, seeing none, we'll close the call to the public, and that'll take us to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.7. I don't have any speaker cards. Council members, do you have any questions, concerns? Seeing none, do I have a motion? So moved by Vice Mayor. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Manfredi. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. That'll take us to the regular agenda item. We'll start with agenda item 8.1. We have a presentation by Global Water.
Good evening, Mayor Smith, Vice Mayor Vitiello, and council members. My name is John Corwin with Global Water. I'm also joined tonight by our Chief Operating Officer, Chris Krieger, as well. So thanks for having us. Really, the reason I'm here tonight, and let me make sure I know how to work this. There we go. So the reason I'm here tonight, so Global Water and the City of Maricopa, we signed a memorandum of understanding a number of years ago. As part of that memorandum of understanding, we provide an annual report to the city by May 1st of each year, which we did this year. And last year I came and presented some highlights of that report and thought I would do it again this year. So that's what I'm going to do tonight, and just kind of walk you through a few highlights of the year, a few of the numbers through the year, some projects that we worked on in 2022, some that we're working on in 2023, a few water resources related items. And then I always like to plug our customer assistance program because it's money that's out there and available to customers, and so just want to get the word out on that. So everyone likes a few numbers to look at, so I thought I'd throw some in the presentation. So although our connections were down a little bit from last year, we did add about 1,140 connections on the water side. Similarly, on the wastewater side, about 1,100 connections. So not quite what it was in 2021, but we're seeing numbers come back a little bit here in 2023. So it's still good growth there. Additionally, we pumped 2.8 billion gallons of water, groundwater in 2022. And we also, through our recycled water network, we're able to defer some of that groundwater pumping. And since 2004, we've saved nearly 11 billion gallons of water through using recycled water throughout the community. So offsetting what would otherwise be groundwater that we have to pump out of the ground. So a few highlighted projects for 2022. Kind of the first two here are near and dear to my heart. So last summer we had a number of main breaks, and so we've taken some actions to remediate that. The first kind of set of work that we did, so we bought some specialized pressure logging equipment to monitor what's called transient pressures. And essentially what transients are, they're kind of really rapid pulse pressures that can cause water hammer within the system. And so these monitors allowed us to detect that and identified kind of the source of those transient pressures that were ultimately leading to some of the main breaks within the system. So we were able to create some set points that mitigated that, and we're also in a process of reprogramming the logic of our pumping stations to also kind of reduce the number of pump starts and stops that will also help prevent those transient pressures as well. And then the second project there, the Honeycut Liner project, this is a project that actually was completed earlier this year. So it's a stretch of water main that we inherited from the 387 district, kind of a historical district in town that we know kind of has problematic, some of the infrastructure that came over was problematic. So we were able to line the last 4,000 feet of that water main along Honeycut Road between Rose and Hartman. And that stretch of road had about 5 main breaks over the past 18 months. So again, helping to reinforce that water main and hopefully prevent future main breaks along that stretch as well. Moving on from there, so Copper Sky, we were able to connect the Copper Sky Lake into our recycled water distribution network. So again, I think positive progress there to be able to use what I consider a renewable resource in our recycled water there at the city lake. And kind of deferring what would otherwise be groundwater or surface water coming from other sources. 7 Ranches, we also interconnected the 7 Ranches fill line to the global water distribution system. So again, providing kind of an unlimited supply of water to that 7 Ranches district there and their water distribution center there as well. The next project, water line extension from Loma to Green Road. So kind of a significant project there in that it unlocks the Moonlight Ridge subdivision. So it has water, the water main up to the doorstep essentially for that subdivision, which is moving along now. And then the last one there, kind of just a little bit further down the road, is the Apex Water Distribution Center. So kind of as an interim until we can get the water main out to Apex, we built a small, what we call a water distribution center for the Apex complex. And so that was also completed at the end of 2022 and early 2023. So a few projects that are ongoing for 2023. The first one references our Southwest service area. So kind of back in the boom years of 2006, 07, 08, developers started moving to the south of the Yacht Channel on Papago Road. And so to be on front of that, we built a regional-sized water distribution center and a wastewater campus. Obviously, the Great Recession occurred, and all that infrastructure sat idle for the past 15 years. So over the past few years, some developers have kind of reinitiated those projects, and the first being Amarillo Creek, which is 600 homes. And the good news is they have about 45 homes in some phase of construction right now. So we're a matter of 30 to 60 days before we're able to turn on our infrastructure to serve those homes and finally get those systems up and running. So that's pretty exciting for us, and we're glad to reach this milestone. And then the last project I'll highlight is just again within Southwest Maricopa area around Copper Sky. Few projects that are going on there. So the D3, S3 projects, Maricopa Station. So those projects being a little bit higher density than we had originally planned for, we're working on some additional capacity to be able to serve those projects. And so we're initiating the design and permitting phases of those projects, and that'll include some some additional infrastructure that'll go in the ground to include some sewer lines and water mains and additional capacity at water distribution center and some other things in further phases as well. So working hard on that, so we're out in front of those projects as well. So shifting gears a little bit, I'm going to focus for a minute on water resources and some things that we did in 2022. So you've probably heard of our designation of assured water supply. We refer to that frequently and often. We call it a DAWS, but again, the designation of assured water supply is we have about 23,000 acre feet available. In the past year, we used just under 8,000 acre feet of that designation, so still quite a bit of capacity to grow into that designation in future years, but with that being said, we're still looking for additional opportunities to expand that and find future water sources for the community as well. And part of that's through what we call our 4x4 concept, so those are just various levels of planning on the water resources front to go find, to be water conscious and also find additional water resources. We also wrapped up our rate case in 2022, and as part of that rate case, there was a mechanism approved called the Sustainable Water Surcharge. So that's really just kind of a mechanism. It doesn't really do anything right now, but it allows us to, it gives us a mechanism to find additional water resources in the future when those become available. And so it's just another tool in the tool bag for us to be able to find those water resources and acquire those. And then lastly, we always promote our customer conservation tools. So I always like to talk about the leak alerts that were sent out last year. So 13,000 leak alerts. We estimate those alerts saved customers about 13.2 million gallons of water that otherwise would have been wasted. The year ahead on the water resources front, so as Councilmember Marsh talked about, Global Water, the city of Maricopa were able to attend what was called the Growing Water Smart Workshop, which was put on by the Sonoran Institute. And so that was kind of a great opportunity to collaborate, and I think there's some opportunities that have come out of that through the demonstration garden, maybe some WIFA funding, turf reduction programs. So, I think that continued collaboration between Global Water and the city is a great opportunity, and we want to continue to move that forward. And then I talked about the Sustainable Water Surcharge of 2023. We'll see potentially the implementation of that, and again, that's just a mechanism to go find future sustainable water supplies for the city. And then my last slide, again, just the customer assistance program. Again, this is a program available to all customers that can receive up to $700 in annual assistance, both on, if you're a water and a wastewater customer, you can receive $350 in assistance for either utility. And again, the eligibility for those customers would be low income, deployed service members, disabled veterans, furloughed workers, and medical hardship. And so we have the Salvation Armies at our facility pretty much every Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So if there's anyone that needs assistance, that's an opportunity to seek that assistance. And we like to be able to distribute those funds if possible. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Council, do you have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Wade.
Good evening, sir. Very good presentation. Appreciate it. I'm curious if you could go back one more slide, please.
Yes.
One more.
One more. Okay.
The sustainable water surcharge. Is there a cost savings in that to the public, and if so, what kind of savings would that be?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a cost savings. Again, it's kind of a mechanism to look for future water supplies. So as the city continues to grow and our designation is, I guess, kind of reaches capacity, then we'll be able to go find and acquire those additional water supplies that the city will need to continue to grow. So it's a mechanism that allows us to ultimately recover those costs in future at a future time. So.
Is it across the board, or is it a tier system that?
Yeah, it's not really a tiered system. It would be based on any water supplies that are actually acquired, and the true cost of those is my understanding of how it would function. So it would be eventually worked into the cost of a bill from that standpoint.
And finally, would that surcharge be something that the Corporation Commission would weigh in on if they thought it was?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the ones that approved it, and so they will approve the administration of it as well.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Council, any additional questions? Yes, Councilmember Manfredi.
John, thanks a lot for coming in today and having this discussion. You know, just a few years ago, if we announced Global Water was coming in here to have a discussion, the place would be full, people would be screaming, it would be fun and exciting. But the work you guys have done over the last couple of years, just getting out there and talking to people and understanding what people are going through with the water rates, and instead of people complaining about a high water bill, I get a lot of people complaining, or not complaining, but talking about the leak alert they got, which really, really works to stop those surprise bills that people were getting. So the work you guys have done to educate people on water usage, to educate people on leaks that they have in their house, under the slab leaks and all that stuff, has gone a long way for the public perception, I believe, of Global Water. And the work you're doing with the city for our development and for the progress that we're having, especially in the Seven Ranches area, and of course south of the city, is great. So thanks so much for coming in. I really do enjoy these when you do them. So see you next year.
Appreciate that, and we will continue to work hard to make things the best that we can. So thanks.
Council members, anyone else? Thank you, John. I appreciate it too. I know that several years ago we talked about difficult conversations related to customers that were not satisfied, not feeling they were getting the customer service, and you guys have really done a fantastic job. I know that anytime I get a question regarding Global Water and I send them to you or to one of your representatives, you guys take care of them, so I really appreciate that, and I haven't actually had very many concerns over the last year at all, so it's very well appreciated. Your 4x4 program I love, because folks, if you don't understand what that is, it definitely is looking to the future and what are we going to do to ensure that we always have a water supply that we need. And the city of Maricopa and its availability of water really is the envy of a lot of various other locations, cities, towns, counties. It's quite impressive, and a lot of that has to do with the forward planning regarding recycling of water, and I just really appreciate it, and I think people are beginning to understand the value of what Global Water brings to the city of Maricopa, so I certainly appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation.
Thanks for those kind words. I appreciate it. Thanks.
That'll take us to agenda items 8.2 through 8.9. Council, I'm looking to see if you have any objections on handling all of these, the public hearing and the resolution, all at one time. Do I have any objections? Seeing none, we'll go forward. I will open, let's do the presentation first with Derek. Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Derek Shearer with the Planning Department, here to present agenda items 8.2 through 8.9. These are for right-of-way abandonment. Right-of-way abandonment cases ABDN 23-02-04 through -10. This is for abandonment of section line right-of-way between sections 27 and 28 of Township 4 South, Range 3 East of the Gila and Salt River Base and Meridian. This is a city-initiated right-of-way abandonment. The city approached a number of property owners in the area, and I'll get to the area in a moment with a general map. Property owners include Desert Cedars Equities LLC, Roadhouse Blues Holdings LLC, Wildcat Landscape Supply LLC, the Butts Family Trust, EHC LP, which is a hospital, 20X Properties, the trustees of the First Baptist Church, and City of Maricopa property. There's a portion of right-of-way. In 1922, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors dedicated right-of-way 33 feet on each side of a section line joinment. In this area, you can see on the map, 27 is to the west, 28 is to the east, and right down the middle in highlight is where that section line is. So 33 feet on each side was supposed to be right-of-way. A couple years after Pinal County supervisors put down the section line right-of-way on the books, Maricopa Road was donated and dedicated, and so it swung to the west a little bit. And a couple years ago, when ADOT came in and did the overpass, they swung to the east a little bit, which left this long section from the right-of-way, from the railroad tracks all the way down to where Maricopa Road and John Wayne Parkway meet as technical right-of-way. The city has never developed it, doesn't have any intention on developing it. It has been developed over. The county allowed properties to be developed over this, talking to their engineers, and said, well, the road was already there for Maricopa Road, and if we ever wanted to build another road, we just condemn all that property we approved and let get built. But that's not the case for us. We're looking at this as a city and staff. This road has never been used. We're never going to use it. We'd like to abandon it. We approached all the property owners saying, you have right-of-way across your property. We want to initiate a city-initiated abandonment of this at no cost to you. You've used the land. You've enjoyed it. We're never going to use it. So we've come to here after a whole lot of getting everyone to sign on board and all the agreements and do all the legal paperwork and everything that we needed to do for all of these abandonment applications. It could not be a single application because this is how many different property owners, as you can see in yellow with the dashed line, each single property. So we put it all together. We would like to abandon this property. Per the city code, we sent out notification letters to all utilities in the area to see if they had any utilities in the right-of-way. Staff has not heard anything from any of the utilities, so there may not be anything actually in there. All public agencies were notified on April 17th as well. I posted signs at all the sites on May 4th. On May 16th, today, we're holding the City Council public hearing. Staff has not received any comment from the public up to this date, and the notification reports are in the packets that have been provided to the council. Staff, city engineer, they support the request. The portion of right-of-way at this request is not identified for any improved planned transportation facility or adopted plan, study, or capital improvement plan. The city does not have any plans to improve or use this right-of-way, and the existing conditions are not in serving any transportation purpose. This area is right in the middle of a teardrop surrounded by right-of-way already. Therefore, staff recommends that the council approve the abandonment of right-of-way for abandonment cases ABDN 23-02, 23-04, 23-05, 23-06, 23-07, 23-08, 23-09, and 23-10, subject to the conditions set forth in the staff memo to the council and is amended by the mayor of the city council. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Derek. So as I mentioned, this is a public hearing and resolution. So at this point, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to approach the podium and speak on these items, items 8.2 through 8.9? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, do you have any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Sorry, Mayor, I have one question. If I may.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Gettle.
Yeah, if I could. Derek, do you mind just going back to the map that shows all of those sections, those parcels? Up there towards the north end, I know that we have our pedestrian bridge that's getting ready to come across there. Can you show me where that is in relationship to those properties? And the abandonment of these will have no impact on that future pedestrian bridge, I assume?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Gettle, I know you can't see where I'm highlighting with the laser pointer here. This was the alignment for the old alignment for Maricopa Road. Right there is where the pedestrian overpass is going to connect that cul-de-sac that's in front of the A1 building and the Blue Barn across the railroad tracks just south of the new Carniceria. This is just to the east of it. That's the A1 building that you see there. The right-of-way actually goes through portions of that building and then all the way south down.
Very good. Thank you very much. No further questions, Mayor.
Councilmember Gettle, any additional comments, questions, concerns? Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
Move to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Marsh, a second from Councilmember Wade. Any further discussion on 8.2 through 8.9? Seeing none, all in favor to approve the resolutions, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those motions carry. That'll take us to agenda item 8.10. At this time, we will turn it over to discussion by Vice Mayor Vitiello and Councilmember Marsh. You don't have to.
Well,
It's up to you.
Now, this is an issue where someone has put in an application for the city to sell alcohol at Copper Sky. I would recommend that we do study this opportunity. There are cities that have successfully gotten into the booze selling business and handled all of the risks and rewards successfully. I'm not sure we want to do it here in Maricopa, but I'd like to have it studied as an opportunity and contrasted with the other way of doing it, that is having a vendor or a set of vendors over time handle the sale of alcohol at Copper Sky, which we've been doing in the past. And that's about it.
Councilmember Marsh. Vice
So,
Mayor.
I have contacted a few different mayors throughout the state, and Yuma, as one of the most successful ones who has their taco festival and several other festivals, gave me the input of that it turns out to work out very well for the city. Again, I agree with Bob that I think we could just simply have them check it out and see if it's something that we want to look at for Copper Sky, and just look at something that could bring other tournaments to our city, that could also bring an income to the city that is actually a very nice one. But I agree that we should actually do that and have the staff go out and do some research on this.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions for Vice Mayor Vitiello and Councilmember Marsh, or in general? Councilmember Gettle?
Maybe just a general statement, if I may, Mayor. While I'm not opposed at all at looking at a future study and seeing if this will be a viable option for us, just on principle, I think I would probably oppose, based on the fact that I'm not sure the city wants to compete with private businesses. Those licenses are available to private vendors that could provide the service, and we've done that in the past with several of our city events. And I'm not sure why the city would want to step in and hamper perhaps a revenue stream for some of our local businesses. So on those grounds, I think I'd probably oppose the idea, but I'm okay if we want to look at a study and see if it is a viable option for us.
Very much. Councilmember Gettle. Anyone else have comments? Yes, Councilmember Wade.
I tend to concur with Gettle on the fact of us competing with other businesses, part of their everyday business. However, I think that we should also give the community the opportunity to express itself, to say what it is that they see as a good thing for the city of Maricopa, as we see it as a good thing for the city of Maricopa.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Manfredi.
I don't see the city of Maricopa being in the alcohol business. We already offer the ability for people to get a license if they're going to have an event at Copper Sky, if they want. And we already have local vendors come and serve alcohol at Copper Sky when we have events. So is this, just to clarify my brain, is this asking if the city wants to get its own liquor license to sell alcohol at Copper Sky?
Yes.
Oh. Well, we're not approving it today, right?
No, we're just discussing what action to take.
All right.
Not even an action, what direction.
Study away. But I don't see myself in approval of that at all.
I tend to support our current businesses that offer those services. However, I know there are different types of options, of a P3 type option with the city. Maybe there is some value, as Vice Mayor Vitiello indicated. Several prominent cities do this, the city of Tempe, to name one, Chandler. So I'd like to at least know what it's all about and what the options are, and so I'm open to looking at a study. My hope would be that we include businesses that are local in whatever we end up doing. Yeah, or a 501c3 that is able to, but there's lots of options. But City Manager?
I think we're clear on what the City Council is asking. We will certainly involve our public safety and our risk and our recreation personnel, I would like to ask that maybe it'd be okay if we have a council member or two, as you would decide, Mayor, that maybe serve on this study group with us. And then we'll reach out to various local citizen groups, or perhaps use some of our standing committees as they get organized to help us with this process.
Yeah, I think that would be great. My suggestion would be Vice Mayor Vitiello and Councilmember Gettle. Would you be willing to serve on that type of a committee?
Of course, that's your pleasure, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go in that direction.
All right, we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, that'll take us to agenda item 8.11, which is a miscellaneous 23-13 presented by Matt Kozlowski.
I'm not too loud, am I? Sound good? I have a big, boisterous voice. I can be louder if you need. Thank you. Mayor Smith, Vice Mayor Vitiello, members of council. My name is Matt Kozlowski, Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer for the city. Let's talk about our proposed fiscal year 23-24 city budget. So here is this year's budget cover and budget message. Every year as a city and in our futures planning sessions, we try to come up with a message that is consistent with visions, plannings, goals, objectives. This year's message is unlocking our future. A budget process is a citywide process. This is a process that involves city council, city leadership, all city staff at the end of the day commit from really the month of July all the way through the month of June to making sure that a budget process is executed appropriately. All the names on that picture to the right there are just the start of the people who contribute to this process, but I would be remiss if we did not mention a few people in particular. Our budget manager, LaSalle Blancarte, who is here tonight. If you could stand up for a second, LaSalle, and please receive some recognition. Please. Tammy Valadez-Paz, who I believe was here earlier, but I did not see her anymore. She is very helpful in compiling all of our capital improvement projects. Our entire finance staff, our public works staff, all of our senior leadership, city management, everybody deserves credit for putting a fantastic budget together. Let's talk about what's in that budget. Okay. The Budget and Finance Committee meeting took place on April 12th of this year. That same day, proposed budget books were distributed to all council members. Updated versions of that were distributed last week as well. Tentative budget will be posted to the city website and available for review no later than 7 days from today. There will be no truth and taxation hearing required this year. The reduction of primary property tax rate to 3.8788 is derived from this year's truth and taxation calculation. The 24 budget, as mentioned, is representative of our futures planning objectives with city council and city leadership, and let's look forward to unlocking our future. In City Manager Rick Horst's budget transmittal letter, he talked about making the unthinkable possible. We must be attentive to aesthetics, to service provisions, but we also must become entrepreneurs. We must devise strategies that will bring investment into our city, that will enhance the overall health and wealth of our community. This effort requires a new approach, a new way of thinking, and a new set of tools. This budget allocates the resources necessary to promote this vision. Let's get right to the good news. Our budget is balanced, requiring no new taxes or reliance on reserves, and allows us to continue lowering taxes. Last year's property tax rate was 4.1709%. As mentioned, this year's primary property tax rate will be 3.87%, a reduction of 30 basis points in primary property tax. Our thanks to City Council for setting that strategic vision and desire for the city. Let's talk about what that means in total numbers. Our FY23 primary property tax revenues per budget were about $15.3 million. This year's will be $16.1 million. The net assessed property growth and new construction values of the city of Maricopa came in at just over $2 million, 808,000 of which are derived specifically from new construction. So what this 30 basis point reduction means is that the only increase to our property tax revenues this year are derived from new construction. Every ounce of net assessed property value growth goes back to the Maricopa taxpayer. In addition to that, there is a 6 basis point reduction in the secondary property tax rate as well. That 6 basis point reduction does not take into account what we talked about at a recent council meeting with the $1 million plus of additional savings we will have from refinancing the 2013 bond issuance. So that will be additional savings that we will see in future years. Just a real quick visual representation of what has happened with property tax reductions over the past 5 years. 7%, 6%, 5%, and 7% reductions to primary and secondary property taxes were voted on and approved by council. Over the past 5 years, that is a 25% reduction in property tax. Let's talk about our general fund real quick. Well, let's look at revenues over expenditures and what that means. Here is a 3-year trend by budget of what those revenues and expenditures mean. Projected FY24 general fund revenues are $91.35 million, with projected expenditures of $69.09 million. One of the things I always like to think about from my past experiences in the private sector is good, strong, healthy, growing companies. I always love to see revenues growing twice as fast as expenditures. If we look at what has happened over the past 3 years, 46% growth in revenue, only 26% growth in operating expenditures, we're pretty close to hitting that 2-to-1 ratio. And quite frankly, some of that $69 million is tied into things such as emergency contingencies or things that aren't actual expenditures, but simply budgeting for the possibility of those expenditures to occur. They also represent strategic considerations, such as taking on the 238 and 347 ownership within city limits. That is an expenditure that is well worth our while and will return far more in terms of opportunity than it will be in terms of expenditure. One of the things we always like to remind people of is that just because our general fund has excess revenues over expenditures does not mean that the city is making a profit. To the upper right hand of this image, you'll see that those funds are transferred out from general fund to take care of general government CIP, asset replacements, interfund loans. These are how we pay for city projects at the end of the day. If we want to pay for a road, we want to pay for a building, this is how we accomplish that in the form of transferring those funds out of the general fund. So it is not that we are making a profit, it is that this is how we pay for our projects.
Matt, if I can jump in there, can you say what asset replacement is for the normal folks in the audience, including me?
Yeah, it could be as simple as replacing a vehicle, right?
Okay.
We bought a vehicle 7 years ago, it needs to be replaced. We want to be able to fund that through asset replacement.
Perfect. And land enhancement?
Land enhancement is the opportunity to acquire land, enhance that land. Sometimes it's blighted land or land that hasn't been used. Enhance that or improve that land, and then actually sell that land for a profit, and then invest those profits into the acquisition of more of those similar types of lands to improve the community.
And lastly, not lastly, but the next one, of course, is General Government CIP. What does that stand for?
The easy way to say that is it's capital improvement projects, it's roads, it's infrastructure, it's buildings. That's how we pay for the vast majority of our projects is General Government CIP, funded through general fund and not something like a development impact fee or a grant.
And from that CIP, that $29 million that we're transferring, you're going to get into CIP in a little while,
We will.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
we're good.
No problem. And if you have a question about it then, feel free to ask. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about where the projected revenue growth comes from real quick. And the easy answer to that is it's growth feeding growth at this point. If we walk ourselves from last year's budget of $77.7 million to $91.35 million this year, that comes from these 3 areas at the end of the day. Technically 4, but one of them we're actually projecting a decrease. Local sales taxes is $8.576 million of that growth. But one of the things we want to clarify is that a high percentage of our local sales taxes are derived from construction sales tax revenues for all the building that's happening in this city, and not from us overly taxing groceries or things of that nature. Anywhere from 40 to 50% will derive on a monthly basis from construction. So it's growth paying for growth. Intergovernmental revenues are state shared revenues. Those are generated by calculations based on population increases. So the more population we have and the greater growth we have relative to other cities, that means more revenue opportunities for us to make the investments we need to make. Property taxes, that 0.8, that's representative of the new construction value that we earned year over year. And then we actually project a slight decrease in things such as licenses and permits. We are still seeing strong permit activity, most recently in the past 2 or 3 months, but we had a pretty strong pace over the past couple of years, so we're conservatively projecting a decrease in this just to make sure that we're safe. So for our projected expenditures, investments that promote the vision we are trying to accomplish as a city, okay? When we walk from 60 million to 69 million, 5.77 of that increase is personnel, and 2.41 of those increases are operating expenditures. I will come back to the personnel in a separate slide here in a second. One of the things I wanted to point out is that 2.41 million of increase in operating expenditures represents only a 3.9% increase in operating expenditures in an inflationary economy where anything might be 6 to 12% more expensive than it was even a year ago. So for us to control that at 3.9% is pretty impressive. In addition to that, of that 2.41 million, about 1 million is an emergency contingency for emergency events. Not even that we're going to spend that, but we have that contingency available. Of the remaining increases outside of that contingency, about 50% of the remaining operating expenditure increases are dedicated to public safety. In regards to personnel and where that 5.77 million comes from, it comes from these 4 categories at the end of the day. How we walk from 41 million in personnel to 47 million, 1.7 million of that is a salary increase. We gave good increases to our employees this year, higher percentages of increases to our workers and fewer and lower to senior leadership because our workers are the ones who get things done for the city at the end of the day. New personnel requests of 1.46 million. 58% of the new personnel requests are dedicated to public safety. So we saw earlier some pretty impressive statistics of what our police department is able to accomplish. We are committed to and continue to make investments in public safety to ensure that that is occurring. Health insurance increases of 1.3 million. We were actually able to, in a market where the estimate was going to be anywhere from a 30 to a 35% increase, we were able to negotiate an increase of only 10%, right? And that 1.31 million, none of that is being passed on to the employees. The organization has decided that we will bear that cost as a benefit to our employees to take care of them. And then an additional 1.28 million that results from all of these things in FICA, retirement benefits, things of that nature, okay? To the far right, you can see the breakdown of expenditure by department. 41% of our total operating expenditures in general fund are dedicated to public safety. And we have a breakdown of 31% operating and 69% personnel. This is actually pretty impressive. A lot of cities find themselves in a situation where 80, 85% or more of those general fund dollars can be spent on personnel. We're only at 69%, which allows us to make more investments in the operating needs of the city. It means that we run lean and mean and incredibly efficient as a city. So for the first time this year...
Can I just add one thing? Go
Please.
back a slide. Even though it says, I can't read what that is, but the public safety, keep in mind that public safety is supported by risk, legal, IT, fleet, facilities, and those costs support public safety, but they're not in the public safety budget. So when you look at the support cost to support public safety, that number would rise significantly by another 20+%. So our total investment in public safety far exceeds what this might suggest.
Very much so. Thank you. For the first time this year, the city took on a new adventure in putting together a 10-year capital improvement plan. Prior years we had done a 5-year, and we extended this to a 10-year in order to take a much stronger look into our future. And I won't read everything that's on this slide here. I'll just call out a couple of things real quick. But the reason you have a long-range plan like this, it's necessary to design the ideal financial funding for implementation of construction or acquisition of the capital projects as they're needed by the community. It doesn't mean that we're always going to commit to everything that's on this list. We must retain flexibility. We must react to the new opportunities and needs of the market. Project implementation, only the first year of any CIP is actually budgeted. When council approves, hopefully, tentative tonight, those funds are budgeted. Everything else for following years is programmed for funding, but must be budgeted and approved each year by council, okay? And if we look at what the different breakdowns are there, the first 3 years are really where we place the highest priority projects to have realized funding. Everything else is long-term strategic planning, still important, but less so than the first 3 years. This is a visual representation of the 10-year CIP roadway projects only that are planned for the city of Maricopa. Our 10-year CIP plan comes in at $622 million over 10 years, $462 million of which is 10 years transportation, 74.3% dedicated to transportation. So the city understands and knows that streets infrastructure and transportation is a big need, and we are thinking and planning ahead on how to accomplish that. Where is our capital improvement money spent? This is representative of just this year's proposed budget, and this breaks down all of these expenditures by category. The total CIP budget for FY 23-24 is $154.5 million. Projects represented in streets infrastructure are listed there, including improvements along the 238, the Sonoran Parkway, traffic signal intersections, 347. Anything you can think of, it's there, okay? One of the things I do want to point out here real quick is that 14% of that is listed as grant opportunity. I won't bore everybody with the details, but this really has to do with statutory requirements for how capacity is supposed to be structured in a budget. We will not obtain this much in grants, so it actually increases significantly our investment in streets infrastructure. That 39% is more like 45 to 50% when you remove that grant opportunity capacity away. So even this year, we have a significant capital investment in streets infrastructure. Okay, where does the money for capital improvements come from? Okay, this is a great visualization of how we accomplish that. We've talked a lot about general fund tonight. We didn't talk much about development impact fees or what they pay for. There's a transportation impact fee, there's parks impact fees, there's police impact fees. Anything that is in blue are carry forward funds that have already been budgeted and saved to pay for projects. Anything in yellow is net new funding that we need to find dollars to pay for things. As we can see, there's a lot of yellow on there. So those general fund revenues over expenditures, they help pay for these things. To the far right, we see listed the concept of a revenue bond. The word bond is scary, but it shouldn't be. A revenue bond is simply a form of alternative financing that allows organizations to pledge future revenue streams from local sales taxes and state shared revenues to fund current public improvement needs. It does not result in one dime of increases in taxes or costs to the taxpayers, and it is actually a representative of smart financial investing because the cost of the road today is cheaper than it will be 5 years from now. If we can pledge future revenues to today's costs, that's smart investment. So we'll go over a couple of projects real quick, a few different types that we'll talk about. The first one is the installation of a traffic signal at White and Parker and Bolin. This project is for the design and installation of a new traffic signal and roadway improvements at the intersection of Bolin Road and White and Parker Road. 3 of the 4 corners of this intersection are built to their ultimate improvements, and this project will complete the roadway improvements on the 4th corner and the ultimate build-out location and install a light. The SR 238 from the 347 to 2 miles west of the 347. This project is for the design and construction of the widening of the 238 from the 347 to 2 miles west. It will turn it from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane roadway. This is necessary. We have a lot of things developing on that west side of town. Estrella Gin, Flats 520, Phoenix Surf, Apex. That adventure corridor is also going to have a lot of homes and apartments being built out there. So we need to be prepared for that. The good news is, Mayor Smith mentioned this earlier, but as a part of the state budget, $10.3 million has been appropriated from ADOT that will be given to the city to help fund this project. The city still owns this project at the end of the day, so we can do all of the work and oversee the completion and construction of it, but we have funding coming our way. Quickly, you can't talk about capital improvements without mentioning something about the 347 at the end of the day. This one calls back to the widening Lakeview Cobblestone Farms North at the north edge of town. This project is for design and construction of a third northbound lane from Lakeview, Cobblestone Farms, approximately 2,000 feet north to the city limits. As you can see, there's only $500,000 in carry forward left from this. The city has already made a $3 million investment into this project with ADOT. I have been told they hope to be out for bid on this project later this year. We talked about the importance of thinking about the future. This project is not an FY 23-24 project, but I think it's important to reference what some of these future projects are and why they're important for our community. This project is to purchase 4 ambulance bodies and upfitting for the possibility of taking on ambulance services in the city. This is a project targeted right now for FY 25 and 26 at the beginning, but some of these investments must be made ahead of time because obtaining vehicles right now is certainly a chore. So these things can change, and they will be brought to you every year for an official budget approval when we arrive there, but we have to be thinking about these things now. Okay. We've talked about it for a couple of years now, but it's always important to discuss the new police station and 911 dispatch that's being built. We can see that going vertical at this point. That's a pretty exciting reality for us. This is a significant investment into the future of public safety and dispatch needs for our community. It's very exciting. We also know we have a courthouse going in here right next to City Hall. Now we will no longer be the only city in Pinal County without our own courthouse. So these building infrastructure investments are incredibly important and show a commitment to public safety that we continue to invest in. And last but not least, you know, over the past few months, we've talked about a lot of exciting opportunities and developments that are taking place in or around Copper Sky. These might be less exciting to discuss, but still important. This is a couple of different images of things that we are going to do at Copper Sky to keep investing in our crown jewel. We understand this building is coming up on its 10-year anniversary at this point, so we have investments to make to maintain and improve this, and also enhance civic engagement and opportunities to engage at Copper Sky beyond what it's capable of today. So we have a number of projects, everything from basic maintenance like a window shade replacement or electrical rewiring to a large project like a pool plaster and sand filter replacement or a Copper Sky enhancement project to try and create more opportunities for citizens to come out to Copper Sky and enjoy the amenities that we have to offer. So there's a lot of other cool opportunities there, but we've got some pretty good stuff going on as well. So that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, any questions, comments? Yes, Councilmember Wade.
The amount of information, great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
The amount of information that you have to go through your staff in order to make it succinct and understandable for us, because you have to dumb it down for us in order for it. Well, maybe not for the mayor. The mayor's
yeah. Staff has to dumb it down for me. It's okay.
But you know, I wanted to thank you, let you know how much I appreciate it, so that I can look at it and understand what you're talking about when it's presented to me. So thank you. We thank you for that.
Right. Anyone else? Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, thank you. You and your team have put together a fabulous budget, and just again, thank you for the focus on our public safety and visiting with our both fire and police. They've been very grateful for the process this year, being able to request the needed expansion and growth that they're looking forward to, as well as the needed personnel. And so just thank you again for making that possible and keeping us a safe city. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marsh.
Matt, I just want to congratulate you and your staff on another year of excellent planning and out-of-the-box thinking. You're saving this city millions of dollars, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the kind words.
Councilmember Manfredi.
Matt, thanks so much. I've served on the Budgets Finance Subcommittee for 5 years, I guess now. And it's a testament to the work done on the committee and by the staff, especially the staff. You guys do more than the council and the committee as a whole combined every year. But this slide right here, the one that you showed, showing the 25% decrease in primary property tax rates over the years, this is testament to the fact that the council as a whole, not just the sitting council members, but Marvin Brown, Julia Gussie, Mayor Price, Peg Chapados, all the council members over the last 5 years have given the direction that we want the primary property tax rates to go down over the years. And when we talk about the inflationary costs of our operations at 3.9%, if anybody here in the room can say anything that's only gone up 3.9% over the last year, gasoline, food, rice, beans, potatoes, whatever the heck you're buying, it's gone up more than 3.9%. But at the city, we worked really hard to make sure that our expenses are not rising as fast as the inflationary measures, inflation that you see in the country today. So the work by our staff, by our city manager, by our finance folks, you know, I'm proud, actually. I'm really, really proud. And I remember just 3-4 years ago, Mayor Price, when he threw a big budget book up on the counter and he was like, look at all this budget stuff. This is our budget book now. And it's not that we're spending less, it's just that we're spending smarter. It's not that we're doing less, we're just doing more with less, actually, in terms of the dollars as a percentage of cost and all that. You know, so when I see it, it makes me proud to be a council member in a city where we have a council that's very supportive of being good stewards of the taxpayers' money. And, you know, when I hear that we're not spending enough money on public safety, and the public says it sometimes, they're like, we need more public safety spending, you know, and I'm able to go back and say every penny of our primary property taxes that we collect is spent on public safety plus more. You know, it's crazy how we as a city make sure that the number one priority is always the public safety. And when city manager mentioned that 50% or maybe even more is spent on public safety of our revenues, it's a great number to hear. And so thank you. That's all I want to say, I guess, and I said it a little longer than I should have. But thank you so much for all the hard work you guys do.
Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor.
Sorry, Henry. Ditto. Well, again, staff, Matt, Mike, just kidding, Mike, Matt, Mark.
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 Thank you.
I'm just teasing. I did it once. And city manager and, of course, your staff who did a great job again. And, you know, prior to this 5 years, the city and the prior council members worked on and didn't raise taxes either. So you're talking almost close to 10 years of either keeping them down and then lowering them, which is great for our people here in our city, especially when other ones are raising them. 51% of our budget gets spent by public safety. We care about our people. The ambulances, we realize that we need to increase our ambulances, and you know, fire has done a great job with what they have to work with AMR, but with the staff that we have at fire and our chief, they know that we could do even a better job and change the response times down to even less. Same with police. We're able to change our response time, which is awesome, so we can get to things quicker. The other thing is that we built a police station, I believe it was, at no taxpayer increase. Is that correct?
0.
So, how much did they borrow? Well, shh, no. And then also we have the courthouse again. You mentioned that. So again, we are spending, but we're spending wisely. We're spending conservatively, and we're making sure what we spend will go even longer and to expand the city of Maricopa for the next 10, 20 years. So I appreciate everything you do. We run this, council runs this, city runs this, staff runs this as their own household. And most of us are pretty cheap up here. So I can tell you right now that we make sure that we stretch every dollar. And again, we appreciate it and your hard work, and thank you, and keep doing a great job, the whole staff.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So you gotta just really get tired of hearing all these compliments, don't you?
I get to stand here and hear them, but it's representative of our senior leadership team, of City Manager Horst, Assistant City Manager Brown. They constantly are working to make sure that it's easy to just spend a dollar. Anybody can do that, but to think about the investment you're making, they make sure we are constantly assessing how we do that. So I get to stand here and receive the kudos. I'm never going to complain about that, but it's certainly not just me. It is a very collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And City Council engages in this and well. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is your department, it's every department, it's the city manager, it's the years and years, 2 decades this year, of mayors and city council members who have been conservative all along the way and continue to be so. I did a town hall at Province, and one of the questions I received was, Mayor, what are you most proud of for the city of Maricopa? What do we have to be proud of? Well, we have a lot of things to be proud of, but one of the most important things that I'm so proud of, and I tout all the time, is the financial responsibility that we take with the city of Maricopa, and what a great condition we're in responsibly financially. I did ask you the question when we were going through the budget finance review. If we were to fall into another recession, which people are projecting, where do we stand? And your answer was great, basically with our revenue versus expenditures and the conservative approach we take, we will be fine through a recession. So I think it's something to be very proud of with the city of Maricopa. I've actually challenged a couple of times any city to come forward and tell me you're in a better financial position than the city of Maricopa. And I haven't had anyone approach me and say, I think we're better. So I better be careful, I guess. There might be some city out there that's in better. But our citizens should be very proud of the fact that we do live within, we have a balanced budget, we live within our means, we live conservatively, we save for future investment, which we can see in our CIP, and there's just a lot to be thankful for. So I'm very proud of all of that, and I congratulate the City of Maricopa City Manager and all the departments. And I appreciate that, and I look forward to more in the future in terms of what we do with our city and our revenue. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So do we.
Mayor?
Yes.
Why don't you make that bet and say a 20-year-old city?
A 20-year-old city, absolutely. I mean, that's even a better point. Yeah, but thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, so do I have any other comments, questions? I should have asked before I sent Matt away. Okay, do I have a motion? Motion to approve by Councilmember Wade, seconded by Councilmember Manfredi. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And thank you all. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Thank you.